Well, lads, here we are again to discuss some more MMA. And today I want to concentrate mostly on MMA in Ireland. Because for a while there in the years of 2014 to 2015, it did seem that Ireland was actually going to make a bit of a splash when it came to MMA. And to be honest, we did have a very good beginning with likes of Conor McGregor and other people coming out of Ireland, and were well represented in the UFC and international MMA. But if we look at it in recent years, it's kind of become a little bit embarrassing because Irish MMA has taken a massive hit. Obviously, with Conor McGregor being an absolute scumbag and losing in spectacular fashion, and other prospects, if you want to call them that, also losing or being extremely boring decisions. And it just made me think, what happened to Irish MMA? Because if you look back to 2014, 2015, when Conor McGregor first got into the UFC and Ireland started getting to UFC at the beginning, we actually had a few prospects that looked like they could actually have a lot of potential. For a while there, it kind of seemed that we might have few contenders in each division, kind of representing Irish MMA and pushing forward as being a substantial person or group in the organization. For example, we had Paddy Houlihan, who was a very promising flyweight, Joe Duffy, who looked very good at lightweight, Cathal Pendred, who was doing his interesting things at welterweight, and Aisling Bay, who was doing a very, very good job in women's MMA too. And of course, we had Connor, who went on to become double champ, but then he became an absolute scumbag, or he was always a scumbag, and it just finally came up. But for a while, he was representing Ireland in a good way on the international scene. And of course, we had Gunnar Nelson, who was one of the most promising talents in the UFC. Obviously, he wasn't from Ireland, but he's been adopted as Irish because of how much he's trained here and as much of a good representative as he's been in combat sports in general. And it just made me think, at this time, it was very fun to be an Irish MMA fan because we're finally getting onto the biggest scene in all of mixed martial arts. And I felt like we are going to stay and actually have a few contenders and champions in the next few years. And then we look at what it's become now. In 2024, our prospects are Caelan Loughran, who is just a blockhead who is pretty much a boring decisioner that might win a controversial decision, but will never probably go on a winning streak. Sean Abanyan, who is fine. Like she's got some good jiu-jitsu and striking, but putting it all together, she is absolutely abysmal. Like watching her fights actually makes me kind of cringe because of how much bad decisions she makes. And of course, we have Kiefer Crosby, who pretty much nobody knows, and it's got a head as big as the side of a house. And then we have Ian Gary, who, if Ian Gary is going to be our representative of MMA, I think we should all just quit the sport and move on. Because at this point, Ian Gary has become such an embarrassment to Ireland that we're actually talking about removing his passport and giving up his citizenship. He can go to Brazil if he wants and pretend to be Brazilian, but in Ireland, we're kind of fed up with him because of how embarrassing the whole situation of his entire career is. But I digress. Whatever happened to these things? Because this is what our current level of prospects are, and it makes me really embarrassed. And for me, it's not because it's more to do with MMA. Because if we look at other combat sports that Ireland competes in, such as boxing and jiu-jitsu, we actually do have people that represent Ireland in a good way. We have Katie Taylor, who's obviously a fantastic boxer and multiple time champion. Caelan Walsh, who's a boy from Cork, who's got a few things going for him. And I think he might be able to do very well in boxing and be a very good representative for us in the world stage. And as well as that, we have Tom Haplin, who is like one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in all of Ireland, and went through to pass to win ADCC trials. So this kind of shows it's not through uh, lack of trying or lack of skill that Ireland's not doing well in combat sports because we do have the skill there, and the training and gyms are there to help us. But and as well as that, we do have promotions in Ireland that do come regularly. Like we have PFL and Bellator MMA, which do put on shows in Dublin and Ireland quite regularly, and because this is able to give people more professional experience before they try to go to the UFC. And as well as that, in Northern Ireland, we have Clan Wars, which is a nice mix of amateur MMA and professional MMA. And these kind of things show both sides of being a promotion that we can actually funnel fighters through. But my problem with these is it is giving people very good experience in MMA, but we don't really have that many people competing in the Republic. And I think this is because of like all problems that happen in the country, is to do with government and government enforcement. Because in the last few years, Ireland has set up the the Irish Mixed Martial Arts Association, which has kind of ironically killed mixed martial arts in Ireland, at least in the competitive scene, because they introduced many rules which kind of restricted people that could compete and train in MMA. Because at the moment, if you want, a lot of people need to go to Northern Ireland or the UK in order to fight in amateur and professional settings. Because in Ireland at the moment, if you're an amateur or if you are a professional, it's a requirement to get a head scan and a CT scan with at least once in order to show that you don't have any problems with your brain, which in theory is a good idea. But if you're like a guy who's kind of trying out martial arts, maybe wants to do an amateur fight, it kind of suffers a lot because one, you might get scared away from doing a brain scan because it makes it seem a lot more serious, and as well as that, it's very expensive unless you're part of a certain club in Ireland that help promote these laws and rules and now get a significant discount on brain scans. And can't really say who or what, but if you know, you know. And this has kind of killed Irish MMA, at least on an amateur scene in the Republic, because you pretty much no one will want to compete with this kind of stuff. And it's really stopping like the next generation from coming up. And of course, if you talk to anybody within the Irish government or in the Irish Mixed Martial Arts Association scene, they'll say these are rules are put in to protect Irish fighters. But if we look at boxing and kickboxing in Ireland, at the amateur level, it's not a requirement to get a CT scan or a brain scan. And I think there's more chance of having a brain injury in a combat sport that's only striking than in MMA. It's kind of just because there's this whole bad reputation about MMA still being a blood sport, which isn't true, really. And it really is just kind of showing that we don't have the kind of infrastructure we need to produce our own fighters. Right now, if you actually want to become a professional MMA fighter, you need to leave Ireland and go to the UK or to the US or maybe another country to get really, really good training, even though we have very good training in Ireland, and get enough experience on the amateur and professional scene. This makes me kind of sad, but this is the way it's going to go for the foreseeable future, which means that we're not going to have many prospects coming out of Ireland. And as well as this, we have people that think if I want to become a professional MMA fighter, I need to go to SPG. And SPG is a pretty shit gym, if I'm going to be honest with you, because anybody that's been around the Irish MMA scene, MMA or Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, knows that if you ever matched up against someone from SPG, it's pretty much a free match for you because their training is awful. Their SPG Jiu Jitsu is pretty embarrassing because it kind of seems they give out their belts like Tic Tacs. I've been matched up against people that have got blue belts and purple belts in from SPG, and those fights are very, very easy because those guys lack basic defense and a very bad jiu-jitsu. And I'm not saying this for everyone that trains there. There are some people that train in these gyms that actually got very, very good jiu-jitsu, but they're pretty much the Starbucks coffee of MMA in Ireland. Pretty much mean there's absolutely no substance there when it comes to it. But this is just what I'm opinion. Do you agree with me that Irish MMA is a lot more disappointing than what we thought it was going to be? Could we actually change some things in the future and have a few prospects? We'll see. I hope so because I think Ireland does have a lot of good opportunities when it comes to combat sports, and I think we could maybe get another champion that's not Ian Gary to represent us on the international stage. But let me know what you think down below. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good shit, and I'll see you guys next time.